Hmm. It's live now.
Varun, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. So thank you very much for joining. So welcome everyone to Data Ki Baat. And today I am doing a conversation with Varun Mohanpuria. And the whole idea is that we are going to talk about analytics, data analytics, how it is happening in India, what is going to happen, and then some of the data basic stuff around data like master data management, data quality, and data protection as well, because there is a law that is going to come in India, which we would touch a little bit. So before any delay, I would like to have Varun give us some introduction about himself, and then we'll take it from there. Over to you, Varun.
Okay. Sanjeev, happy to be here having this conversation. Just to introduce a short introduction of myself, I've been a data analytics and data science veteran for last 15 years. Been in the media and retail, and for last couple of years, been driving part of a startup where we are trying to build a autoML, trying to democratize data science, where ML machine learning is not just limited to people who are technically sound or programmatic to know programming. However, people who are data analysts, who are business analysts, and people who are actually playing with the data and have a good understanding of the business problems also, they should also able to drive the advanced data science piece or machine learning model piece. That has been the for last means again across last 15 years I've been working with Novartis, Star TV, and working on the movies piece as well as the pharma space on the oncology side. And would be happy to chat about more about it, how this journey has evolved, how the analytics has evolved in last 15 years in India as well as globally. Sanjeev, I would like to know from about you on this initiative, Data Ki Baat, how you have been driving this. Means I noticed you have been active for last few months at least on this piece specifically, and last I remember 3 4 years back also you have been talking passionately about the data piece. Would be happy to know more about this.
Definitely. I think this question has been asked really multiple times, and then it's a good opportunity to really talk a little bit about it. So, as such, the initiative is all about making sure that data is treated. It's a complex subject, right? The whole idea is to make it very easy for people. And how do we make it very easy for people is basically socialize more, make them comfortable about it, right? So mostly people are not very serious about it. I mean, at least in India, I have faced that. Okay, we are not very careful about data unless it comes and bite us in a way, right? So so the initiative is all about how, if we can master our data, we can master our life, because I see everything attached to the piece of, I mean, the life that we are living, right, every day. I mean, even if you're booking a cab, you see that you got to use data. So data is everywhere, but then how do we manage that well? So if it is so much part of our life, then don't you think that if we can master our data, we can definitely master our life? So that's the whole initiative. And through that, I really very passionately run a campaign, uh, data protection bill of India, which is really upcoming, and probably nobody is talking about it, but I think it is very important. That is one thing. And then this Data Ki Baat is a platform. My vision is that it is going to be a platform where we are going to talk about data analytics, and having people really come and talk uncut, unscripted conversation about what they do, how are they dealing with the data problems in a day-to-day life, wherever they are, right? So that's the whole idea. And then we can't do all these things without people. So that's where I came up with the concept of gods. Gods is basically gang of data stewards. Yeah. So because I feel that we cannot really drive any changes in terms of data or anything else as well without right mindset, right people. So you can have probably a lot of technologies. You can talk about machine learning, you can talk about artificial intelligence, but if you do not have a right people to drive that piece, what they want from it, you can't probably be successful in that. I mean, that's personally my thinking. So what I thought is that why can't we make a group of people who are really working on the floor day to day, understanding data problems and then really dealing with them. So I wanted to brand that as like a gods. So gangs of
That
data are the people who are really working on the floor, making things happen about data. So that's where this whole tied up. So initiative is one piece, and then communication is data ki baat, and how do we drive that is gods. So that's how it this whole three things ties together. So I
That's a
hope.
super thought, superb idea. God's, I like that tone of it. And in our startup also, we had once similar kind of thought. We call it cyber intel. Cyber is a man plus machine. So it's a human plus a machine intelligence has to work together.
Definitely.
Machine has its own advantage and limitation, but again,
Right.
human has to own it up and human has to drive it because what can be again, data is again, when you look at the data piece, this is a kind of communication which we are trying to interpret from the customer side, and data analytics is kind of interpreting it from a grammar point of view. How do you well interpret it? We can use machine because where there are rules piece, and again, it has to be very careful that where we need to apply analytics algorithms and where we not to apply. Some rules are applicable somewhere, and it depends on a lot on context. So that's where interpretation has become very, very important piece.
I love your quote. I mean, data is language, analytics is interpretation. So it's really, I mean, thought provoking, definitely. So yeah.
So Sanjeev, just now, when you mentioned the data ki baat on the data quality part also, let me share one experience, a recent experience, and one of my team member has been complaining about that piece. So we got recently got from one client, we got uh, employee data. It is an
Okay.
employee joining probability model, and the data quality was again one of the challenge piece. We initially we got a CSV file. However, when we started working on the data, we realized that it was not actually a CSV file. The extension got changed to CSV. And then
Mhm.
there are plenty of tabs, plenty of special characters, as well as interchange between a numerical and character values. So in the same column, there are numerical values as well as character values. Plus, it is CSV value. It has a comma also in some of the values. So when we try to import in a Python, we ended up shifting some of the columns in between, and that has been for last 3 4 days at least. He has been struggling with to improve the standardizing the data, standardizing some of the all variables, standardizing, removing those special characters, removing the tabs, removing the comma piece. That has been doing manually as well as using the code. That has been the reality check that okay, when you talk about data quality, what is the reality stack? We have to build a model on it, and we were expecting in one day we are able to finish it off. But again, for last 4 5 days, we are just doing the data cleaning part. Sanjeev, what's your thought on the data quality part? Means from your experience, again, you have worked on the data a lot, on data quality side, data management side.
I mean, it's really overwhelming. I mean, I have to just start with that, right? I mean, when I say overwhelming, basically, uh, so if you really look at it as a as a pyramid of the whole say data, probably a data life cycle, you can say that, in terms of, so start from generation to the analytics, right? I mean, there there are there are a lot of things that happens with data. I mean, we have to really understand that why and what we are expecting from the analytics, and we have to prepare the data in a way that it should probably give us a result that we are looking for. So when we are talking about data quality, I know it is just a word, but behind the scene there is a lot to it. I mean, definitely in a day-to-day life, I mean, as we work with the data, we really face a lot of challenges like we just explained, right? Similar challenges are kind of everywhere, but that's where I come to a people perspective. I mean, I can talk about tools. I mean, I've been really involved with using different tools, but even if we are having those capable tools, right? But still, if you see there is a data problem, then there is something more to it than just having a tool, right? I mean, you can just put the tool and then make it work, but still you are going to face some data issues because the involvement of the people, the ownership of the data, that's a big question most of the time. It drills down to that. I know we are talking about data quality as such, but who will manage that data quality? I mean, how do we define that particular piece that okay, I see this data and I say this is the quality. This is what I want. Right? Those definitions, those you know from the organization standpoint, when I really define it, make it black and white, and then drive it to the level where it is really happening, that's where the whole I would say make or break happens. I mean, we know those data quality rules, 6 dimensions of data quality. I think one of my LinkedIn, which I really admire him a lot. 12 dimensions of data qualities are also there, but still there is a problem. So basically it comes down to how you know your data, what is that you want from your data, and to get to that level, what are the things that you want to manage in terms of quality. You don't have to boil the ocean basically, because it is never ending process, but you just have to keep the why in mind, where you are going to use it, and then make that particular changes, make that quality, look for that quality, and then you will probably be able to say that okay, I am 100% quality. Otherwise, I have never seen a place where we can say that okay, we are 100% in data quality. I think it's like you know looking at what you want and then going from there, and not really looking for all perfection piece of it, because it is going to be there, it is going to be there, because we are human being, we are people who are working there, and there got to be a mistakes and all. But we have to just make sure that how do we take it forward from the objective of analytics, as like you just said, right? I mean, so I think that's where we have to drive. At least my approach is that, I mean, look at the rules, look at the definitions out there, look at the summary, and then apply the rules, and then see that okay, you are at which percentage. Having a dashboard definitely helps, like tools Informatica I have been experienced. There are tools that I have been really evaluating and using. So tools are there, but definitely you need right people, right data stewards there to really help you. I know it's a long answer, but that's what it is. Data is complex.
Data is as complex as the consumer life, and still, I would put it means every data is as a small sample of a consumer life. When we look at the customer, it is one particular interaction with one some platform. So let's say we are talking about a mobile data or say a website data, digital data piece, or social media also. All these are like interfaces or interaction points for a customer or consumer life. They will may spend some minutes or say few hours, and from the entire consumer side also, those again the people who are interacting with the platform is also limited. So whenever you talk about the big data, it's still we have to keep the reality check that we are still talking about a small sample of consumers. We are talking a small sample of consumers life. We still don't know the what other consumers are doing and what consumers doing rest of the time. So when you talk social media also, when people have been talking about last couple of years where there was a lot of buzz about social media big data piece, and people have coming up that okay, we get to not to know, we gonna know reality of the consumer. But that was a fact, that was a false also. When people talk about a Facebook data or a social media piece, it is
Mhm.
not the reality, it is the projected reality. The person who is in the real life as a consumer, I may not, if I put myself also in position, I may not talk about everything what I do actually on the Facebook. It is still projected reality piece. So think of it as there's a joke in media itself. When we used to go on a Star Gold, so whenever we used to ask consumer that okay, what do you watch? What do your kids watch? They always mothers always especially used to talk about oh we हमारे बच्चा तो what do we talk Discovery, we watch Discovery, Net Geo, or educational channels or English channels. In reality, the kids was watching a Disney say Hangama TV or I mean Star Gold. However, they will never admit at the first hand itself. That's the reality of consumer. They will never admit in public or in front of anybody else, be it social media, be it interaction piece. They will never admit or mention that they're gonna watch. They are watching that. What they're actually watching. And it is the same part. If you talk about media part, people not don't talk too much about the TV serials, though they have a huge viewership.
Yep.
People still talk about the social media. People talk about Game of Thrones, which had a perfect 0.000 TV rating on Star World when it came in the first day, first show, the same time it got released in India also and in US also. That's the reality. People have been talking about the things. People talk about things on social media, on digital, which are relevant to hardly 0.1% of people. So I can
So
take
it is.
many more examples also. But the point is, it's again we are still talking about a small sample, and the reality is still hidden from us. So we have to take intelligence guesses. We have to intelligence assessment, or we need to take a call that okay, not just this data, we need to capture from other data source also. We need to consider other data source also to make it slightly more complete, or at least make it more rich. So that's why the human part becomes irrelevant because the human has to take a call that okay, is this data good enough? Should I take more data, or should I dig deeper into some other data source also? Can I interpret to my consumer life also? When I talk about retail transaction data and banking transaction data, that also a small part. My life is not dependent on my banking transactions. So it is again, I'm much as a human, I'm much bigger than my banking transaction, my retail transaction, my social media, and many more things. So it is just not interaction. It is again human interaction also. What I talk to my family, why I talk to my friends in person, on phone. I may not have a chat. There may not be record at all.
Right.
So that's why it becomes important to have a human perspective on what data I'm looking at. And then when I'm interpreting the data, it becomes, for any data scientist or data analyst, it is critical that they keep that in mind, that perspective of consumer mind. That okay, we are talking about a human here, not just the data. Data is just a me. It is not the end goal. The end goal
Right.
is the consumer, understanding consumer itself and making intelligent guesses and making good prediction piece, which can help business decisions. Data itself or doing data analytics or prediction model, they are just means. They are not goals. So be it advanced algorithm, anything, those are just means.
That's really great. So I think a lot of insight. I mean, I think I have to reiterate that for our viewers and anybody who is watching live at this moment. Even if you're not watching, actually the video is going to be available for everybody. So, but the the crux of the message so far from Varun is that every data is a sample data in itself. I mean, it's all about human perspective. So people behind data is also important. No, definitely data is important, but people behind the data, their context, in what situation they are, in what context they are trying to use, or they are, would probably help. So if somebody wants to really do that analytics, they have to consider data and the context at the same time to really drive the either recommendation or the insights that they are looking for. Right, Varun? Am I
Yeah,
able to summarize
you
it
are.
well? Thank you. Yeah. So, so I think I have been very fascinated about your writings. I'm not sure how many people maybe really have already gone and read your articles. I have been really following. So you have a very good interest, I would say. I think you are passionate about history also, because you kind of get those pieces and then attach it to the real world situations, like mostly the analysis, data, and all those things. So I think I've been really very insightful reading those, and I would recommend anybody who is watching now probably should go ahead and then read your articles. I know it is going to take time. It may start with a very heavy ones. I mean, so I'm warning as well user not to really just have to just sink in, and then share your insight with either Varun or me on the Data Ki Baat, and we shall probably think that what are the next talk that we are going to do based upon your interactions. So I have specifically one question which I thought I will definitely ask, as I mentioned your writings on the LinkedIn as well. um, how how has been your journey in the star world, because that is mostly consumer facing? So what are couple of insights that you, an aha moment or wow moment that you have probably figured in terms of data? I mean, I would like to
Okay.
definitely know, and then all of us would like to know. Our
Okay. So I think when I moved in movies piece, before I just talk about the ones what I was doing previously, so it will give the context piece.
Mhm.
So in India, that means again my journey again was overlapping with the analytics journey in India also, how analytics was evolving. So
Right.
when I joined in 2006, so there's a company called Marketix. Marketix is one of the first few analytics data analytics company based in India, driving or delivering data analytics projects for global clients, especially US part. So if you talk about it, some of the initial pioneers in the company, analytics space, Genpact was one of the first one. Fractal also came in. Genpact, Fractal. Then the Marketix came in. Then there's a company called Mu Sigma, so which came in again early 2001 and 2003 space. Uh, Again, some of the Inductis also came in. Inductis based in Gurgaon. Some of these company got acquired in 2007 period. 2007, Market is got acquired. Market RX, there is another pharma focused JC founded company. So that got acquired by Cognizant. Market is got acquired by WNS, and Inductis got acquired by EXL. EXL and WNS was trying to build their KPU part, and they from the BPO side they wanted to do KPO part, and they acquired these companies to build their KPO division itself. So that was the 2007 equation. Then data analytics again kept evolving, and it was, I remember that time also it was quite okay. There was a big thing, data analytics, at least in US, and there was a transition going on in the banking industry. Banking industry had already been using data analytics a lot, so there were a few captives also came in India. Uh, Namely, means HSBC was there. HSBC then some of the part got acquired. Citibank also have a captive in Bangalore itself, and as well as Mumbai. Then there is a MX. MX also set up their own house apart from Inductus. The work they were getting done from Inductus. So again, the banking also captive came in. Uh, my focus was on the industry part. It was mostly focused on retail. Some of the retail also captives also opened their shops in the Bangalore and Hyderabad itself. Pharma side also, Novartis had opened their setup as in Hyderabad. So when in 2010 around, I moved around to say, okay, from one side of vendor, being a vendor, I would rather on the other side of the table and move to Novartis. So that was in Hyderabad 2010. Uh, Earlier in Marketex, main retail and media. So Universal Studio was one of the main client for me, and then few retail companies also. So been working with most of the retail data, especially so be it all large retailers we talk about. So movies was the focus on the DVDs part. However, content was not the focus. So I hardly means I'm not called myself as a movie person. I hardly used to watch any movies at the time. So after Novartis, I took a jump. Okay, let's talk about events rather than doing for captive. I want to own it and analytics piece. So I jumped on Star TV piece. Initially, I was hired for the central team, and then first day when I joined, I was notified that, oh no, you are not in the part of central team. You're only part of Hindi movies team itself. So Himal pulled me in. Okay, yes, I want you to be part of my team rather than the center team because there is some initiative you can own and drive it from here itself rather than the center team. So the first thing which was in the Star Gold again, first thing was the movie part. I would put it. It was a movie industry, and understanding the content has become the base of the entire business. So I was given there was a TV on my desk, and I was given a target every day. I have to complete at least two, three movies, at least be aware of my our own library. So that was the one that the challenge was thrown onto me. And on the data side, I when I entered the industry, again Indian industry, we are talking about Indian media industry, where the currency itself is a data. TV rating points are the currency and driving the revenue. However, still, even that currency, that time the TAM was a uh, agency which was providing the viewership numbers. That itself was coming from a small panel of say 8,000 household. We are talking about 8,000 household, and also it is not a minute by minute. It's again a small panel, and from that it has been projected to the entire universe. So there was a plenty of limitation on the time piece. Also, people were questioning. Everybody was again from the marketing side, from the media side. Everybody was questioning, and the challenge for us it was okay. Yeah, it's a panel data. I can't use it to build any prediction model directly. Panel data has its own limitation. I can do forecasting, and the panel is quite well structured. However, consumer level understanding part, I can't do much if it's not structured properly at all. And unfortunately, as a TV guys, we didn't have access to the granular level data of that piece itself. So the first the initiative itself was to get the right data piece, get the right cleaned up, get more historical data as granular as possible. So again, thankfully, the team was supportive. Again, I would put it once again, I got the data of the viewership. I had to buy out the data of other TV channels, what they have been playing for last 3, 4 years. So the actual scheduling data, which you look at the DTH and look at the directory piece, okay, what has been playing in what other channels, that data we have to buy it, and then the movie box office sales. So that also we have to figure out which would be the right source and try to we put an intern to capture the data and put in a feed into an Excel part. So we have to. There are some data which was pulled in from internal teams. There was some data which we have to buy in. There was some data which we have to put in intern at least capture it because there's no structure available at all.
Okay.
So three different, and then the finance team also, which again, how much of price, everything, that information has to collect. So there are four different data sources which we have to combine. It took me another 1 year, in fact, to put this data in place and build more, what to say, something tangible or more useful for the business side. So the first project was on the pricing part, and that was a journey because I would put in 1 year. I had to finish the entire library piece, at least watch most of the movies in the library, and have a good understanding of Hindi movies and what kind of movies works on TV and not works from the viewership data itself. So 1 year I would put in 1 year it took to set up the entire thing to have a better understanding, the better right context also, and then the big project got delivered after 1 year, not once before that. So getting the data in place, understanding the problem, defining the problem, and then capturing the relevant data. That was again crucial pieces for that.
I
And
think
after 1 year, it was implemented, and then there was a journey kept on. So that is something which a transition which means at least I proud of that. Okay, I was able to watch, went through all the not just Hindi movies, Telugu movies, Malayalam movies.
I think you brought us to a good old drill. I mean, it all starts from collection, and you said that it is good. It has really took you a lot of time. And I mean, now everybody who is really watching, and I am personally said we must believe the quote when we say, right, 80% or of the time is really gone into preparing the data for the actual analytics, right? I mean, that's where we hear, right, this division of the work that any data scientist generally do, right? So that's where this whole pyramid I keep talking about, right? It's the bottom here, and in the bottom there is a lot of chaos. There is a lot of work that is required, and there is a lot of data messaging that we just talked about, different sources, enrichment of data, combining it, merging couple of sources together, and then making it in a set that might just be feed into a model, or an analytics model, or just to really produce the desired result that you're looking for. So I mean, that brings another very interesting discussion on the state of data. I would say, I will not call it a data literacy, but this really a passion for data in India. I mean, I've been really, as part of the my LinkedIn program initiative, I've been really fortunate to be in touch with a lot of people in terms of data. I mean, across the world, I would say. I mean, you every corner. I mean, I've been really having 1% or 2% talking, really understanding that what I am trying to drive. But why I'm mentioning is that I happen to talk to one of our top, I would say, top positions. He is holding a top position in organization. And when we were talking about, just a discussion on a chit chat on a LinkedIn, and then I was trying to understand the, how data is done, what are his thought about, data governance, data protection as well, because I was driving that campaign which on the data protection, Act of India. So I mean, I was surprised to really hear that. I mean, the answer was like, yeah, we have a couple of people doing this, and I think he can do that, and he's doing it. I mean, there was no real, governance, no real, I would say, need as such that okay, this is important. This data piece is very important. So there, that's where I coined this thing, right? I mean, it is dashboard still here. I mean, many people are still thinking that okay, having a report there kind of drive them to what they are looking for and where they are heading. So that's where the whole challenge is, and that's where I feel that I think even if I'm, moving a little slow in the initiative, I'm at the right place because it requires a lot of education, lot of awareness to bring people to understand the importance of data, governance, data protection, data quality, and all those stuff. Then only we can probably do the analytics, like you rightly said, right? We have to understand and remind ourselves of why are we doing that. So, what are your thoughts on those why piece? Because we generally miss that piece.
I think as I mentioned earlier also on this part, when we talk about data, we are talking about actually consumer part. So it's actually consumer who should be the focus. And when we capture these transition data or behavioral data, that is actually what is happening, what they are
Right.
doing. So all the data is about what is happening in the market, what customer is doing, what customer is acting upon, what customer is buying, what customer is looking at. So the data is what is capturing is what is happening in the market. Then it also gives the order of the things, what they bought, what they view. So that's again how it is happening in the market. And based on this information, we'll try to predict a trend to what will happen. So we predict that okay, this customer is most likely to buy this product or not. What is the kind of estimate, say, revenue size from bucket side we expect from this customer? This customer going to spend say $50, $30, $500, $1,000. So we predict based on what is happening in the market. The why part is missed out. Why data normally doesn't capture the attention data, it doesn't capture the why part. It has to be digging much deeper. That's why is normally missing the data piece. And that's why I keep on harping that when you talk about data piece, data is a mean to dig into the consumer life. The why has to come from the consumer side, consumer life. So sometimes the say data part industry, we normally talk about that okay, behavioral data, transaction data is going to give us what? We look at other means on say market research, asking the consumer or doing the other survey piece also, having in one-to-one interaction. However, again, that is also projected, so it doesn't throw the reality part. Again, the interpretation becomes a more important. The human who is driving that initiative becomes more important because we
Right.
have to interpret from multiple data sources, try to make intelligence guess, okay, why the customer is doing this, why customer is buying the particular product they're buying, why customer is spending this much amount. So if you uh, say Amazon on the say Sanjeev has gone and bought one particular uh, helmet, particular type of helmet. I'm
Mhm.
going to highlight a specific type of helmet for your kind of person.
Mhm.
So now, okay, customer Sanjeev has looked at this kind of helmet. He has also looked at the some parts. He has been looking on the backpack also. Now this information is available as a data scientist to me. I can make a prediction. This Sanjeev is most likely to buy some of this particular say auto part also possibly, but it's not telling me the why. The why has to interpret that okay, Sanjeev is avid biker. That's why he is interested in the all the auto parts or the bike stuff. He loves traveling. That's why he is looking at the travel backpack and everything. And he has been not just buying now, he has been buying interacting with earlier also. So there's a Sanjeev who is a good avid biker. There's a Sanjeev who is actually avid traveler, and that's why he is buying these kind of products. So that's where the story fits in entire piece. That why
Right.
interpretation has to be done by the data scientist, human behind. There is the data available, what Sanjeev has been buying, what Sanjeev is looking at. However, the interpretation of it has to be done by the human part. That's why I keep on harping that okay, data is what? The why has to be the human part. That because data scientist, data analyst has to make an intelligent guess about the consumer part and make a guess part.
That's where, I mean, this golden triangle we keep talking about: people, process, and technology. I mean, I've been, really always, really pushing. I would say I must call it pushing because it got to start from people. I mean, like you said, right, human factor is very important. At the same time, I mean, if you really look at the organization part of it, or data quality, or data management, or data governance initiative, even analytics, right? This people aspect is very important to be able to successful, and those people have should have probably a different trait, like, I mean, really a probing kind of a nature, not really giving up, because data sometimes make you feel that okay, what the hell? I mean, we should not. I mean, why am I having so much? Why there is so much quality issue? I mean, the tendency to give up and then take the shortcut is always there, but we must not succumb to that particular, I would say, situation. And that's where this quality of, people that I talk about, right? I mean, gods has got those qualities. I mean, where data stewards are the people who are going to really guard those, make sure that organizations policies and procedures are basically kept, at the top. Data quality is being maintained over time. They start from looking at the source, like you said, collection, to the time it is really put into a practice or analytics, rather, in this case. So that, it
Sanjeev,
is better.
this reminded me of another point you mentioned. There's a long-term and short-term goals on the data side. Can you talk about
Yep.
the data governance side, data structure side? Means what is the short-term, what is the long-term piece?
It's simple. I mean, I keep on hearing. I mean, it's very common. I would say quote like, "You pay it now or pay it later." I mean, you have to invest in that, a particular, thought, that if you are not taking care of your important asset. I mean, very recently I was, on the LinkedIn itself. There was a, statistics given that 77% of the directors or company, probably, leaders, believe that the data is an asset, but in reality it is not the case, right? I mean, and then, I mean, I had some, again, my comment on that, as a conversation, but I think it's really making sense to a lot of people that, I mean, no matter, I mean, it's not no surprise that they thought that it is only technology, probably, but we have to really, see that balance between. I'm not against technology. I mean, I've been really fortunate to use the, latest and greatest technologies, day in day out, but the whole idea is that people aspect of the equation is something that comes naturally first to me, because I mean, you can put any model in place, but what is going in is probably managed and governed by the help of people, right? So people drive that whole thing. Not data doesn't drive it in itself, right? I mean, it is not govern itself. It is not going to protect itself. It's not going to clean itself, right? And so we got to have a people. So I mean, for me, it is basically a process which is going to evolve slowly. So that capability maturity model is a long established thing. You got to really see at a short term, where are you? I mean, how you are treating your data. What are the people capability in terms of data literacy? I can talk about. I mean, it is very important. Not everybody should be data scientist, I would say, but they should be able to make sense of data, because not everybody is supposed to do that job, because there is a job for everybody and they have got role to play. But we got to make sure that everybody at their level is able to make sense of data. They are able to interpret and treat it the way it should be treated, and then pass it on. Nobody should pass a bad thing to the next one, and that's where we can stop the whole chain reaction, and then stop it. So long term and and short term depends upon where you are, and then where you want to go travel, and then so before that you have to discover where you are, I would say. So capability maturity model, in a way, I mean, there is a Gartner capability maturity model available. There is an open source also. If you have seen Mike 2.0, Mike 2.0 is a basically a open information governance or information management framework. It can be easily used. I mean, you don't have to probably go and spend a lot of money. You can just take off those things, shoot it to your organization need, and throw it around people, and then let's take their opinion, and you can find out where are you. So you will get your current state, and then you can really define which path and what will take you there, and then you can decide on your long term and short term goal of your data management and data governance. So
Sanjeev,
that's how I
don't you
think.
think also means when you talk about highlight that data governance, data process part specifically, so business leader when they are driving it, they are looking at very short-sighted, immediate gains rather than the long-term gains to building the entire data structure, evolution steps also, and reaching that evolution steps. One of the point I would add in means some of the data standard piece you mentioned. There is a eight-step journey from SaaS. I think there is a 2008 to the nine. I have been I had read it earlier, and it is still relevant. That the first journey is again the building the database, and then there is standard reports. Then there is a query-based report, then trigger-based piece, trigger-based action reports piece. Then comes the forecasting, then prediction, then optimization at the top. So that's again one of the piece which gets highlighted. People keep on talking about what is the difference between BI analytics, and data science. I would put it BI is again we are going to talk about just throwing out the information in terms of dashboard, in terms of report. That's a BI part which have been defined for last many years at least. Data analytics was on top of it, which was again like making intelligent interpretation and more on future prediction also. So when you talk about prediction model forecasting, everything falls optimization, everything falls in data analytics space. Data science has become more popular in last 5 6 years specifically, and I think some of the definition have been driven from the VC side also, which I see in many startups. At least people are using data science as a separate part, and become a necessary also to distinguish between the talent piece. Data science is more very technical heavy or programming heavy. It has become a programming heavy, I would put it, because of many algorithms people have been using and more integration with the production system itself. So data science has especially got anything to do with the algorithms of programming itself. And many of the startups, once again, I see many of the large startups also confused about it, and then they have their data science team itself in confusion. So data science team is trying to. There's a data science team which will build all the prediction model, and data analytics team is separately which will just interpret and use the model and become a distinction. It is good categorization when I'm trying to hire a talent. Say go, I'm looking for technical side and data science who are familiar with algorithms, programming side, and data analytics people who can interpret it properly. However, these have to work together. It is can't be in the separate silos. It has to be working together in a single team or single person possibly. So that has been the challenge part. And when you talk about short term, long term, the person, people who are driving this entire initiative, the way you said data governance, data process piece, those are the base structure itself. Those are basic building blocks. That's the way, that's the foundation built on. The data, entire data science, data analytics, be everything. The foundation is database, data warehouse, entire piece, how the data has been structured. And that has been, should be the clear vision on the business leaders also who has been driving that should understand the foundation first. That is the first critical part, and then on the top of that, what stage they will be able to do BI, they will be able to do data analytics, or they will do data science. That is something to be understood because it'll take a couple of years, not few months or few weeks. It takes a couple of years.
Yes. Yeah, correct. I think those philosophies and goals. I mean, you rightly said in the beginning of the call, right? It's not the end goal. It's, I mean, that means is the data, but we have to make sure that if that is correct, then definitely we can reach the goal of analytics. So if you really look at the different countries specific, I'm going a little bit beyond India. Every government is having their open data initiatives. So I mean, obviously in India also we have that, but there is, I would say, there is much use of that. I mean, how can we, I mean, not really how piece of it, but why is this so? I mean, why we are not able to probably use that open data available to be used by the maybe a startup companies or somebody to bring into a social, probably angle, social entrepreneurship or social product, which kind of helps, because there are a lot of data on the, I mean,
Hmm.
and government of India also is providing a lot of open data, but I'm not seeing that traction in terms of people pulling that piece and then trying to make some model around that, or bringing some product which helps social cause, right? So what are your thoughts on those, you know
Good
government
point.
and
Open data, at least I have used some of the open data for aggregation purpose, especially on
you
the
mentioned?
movie side,
Yep.
industry side. Yes, I have used some of the open data, and the pain point comes in open when you say open data or government, what the government is providing, it is coming from a panel, and then it's shared at aggregated form. So when you talk
Correct.
about consumer level model, predictive model, those are not applicable there at all. So that's first we should be clear about.
Okay.
So it is a panel and it's an aggregated form. So normally some of the startups, I mean, at least I'm aware of that they work on intelligent analysis on this government data on spending patterns across consumers, retail consumers in India. They have been using intelligent interface or more kind of visualization, better visualization to explain that what that data is important or not, how to interpret that data to help in that. They are creating intelligent visualization on top of this open data sources.
Yeah, I've
That
seen
has
that.
they have done some good work. At least with some of the startup have done fabulous work in terms of in making it easier to interpret it for the
Mhm.
common public.
Mhm.
And that's the way I would put it. Is most of these open data being because of aggregated form, being because of at panel level, most of those prediction analytics, consumer level analytics which you talk about, and our consumer level analytics, that is not applicable at all. It is
Mhm.
again we can talk the government also use that data for forecasting purpose. So overall top level, country level, industry level forecasting that okay how much industry gonna project consumer spending gonna increase year on year, quarter on quarter. So
Right.
that is the entire data piece. Is pretty important data. I would call it pretty rich data, and there are a few things applicable in that particular data format. So that is something people have to be aware of. And the pain point again, I would say means again the from the business side, people are again hung up either upon because of the buzzword or data science that okay, I need to have a large data, I have a big data piece only. I should not look at the small data piece at all.
Right.
Sometimes it has to be merged together and have to make intelligent. That piece is missing on the business leader side. Are not aware of, people are not educated enough, or people who are driving, many of them don't have the background or have not done put their hands in this kind of data form at all. Many of them come from different backgrounds. Say maybe you had a technology background, IT sector, or from business side, sales side. So they are not even aware of that. Okay, this is things also possible. They are all most of them are just running behind the buzzword. So that becomes a limitation in terms of using different data sources. Open data, government has made it possible to
Yep.
access it, and it can be used in at the overall business planning point of view. If I talk of financial planning analysis, something one FP&A, which people call it in internal corporate language. So that is actually taking care of the revenue position. It also gives a sales target. That team actually can use this public data forums or government data which is available industry wise. They can
Mhm.
use those kind of projections for their purpose, for their planning, annual planning, that to set up the target. Okay, next year we have to aim for 7,000 crore revenue or say 5,000 crore revenue from this particular industry. That kind of breakup they can intelligently use. That's a finance team. And
Yep.
unfortunately, they are again finance team. I would call it because again they are pretty good in running the processes in terms of financial part. However, they are not aware of the different data sources and how to intelligently use. That is something that has been missing. Most of the data analytics initiative has been focused on marketing side or risk. Or how the finance core process piece has been still left out. And I think that is the education is part something which is missing, and that has to be driven from the top and across the industry ecosystem itself, which will be helpful to drive the utilization of the open data by the finance team in their planning itself, financial planning, annual planning piece.
Thank you very much for that insight on the open data. I mean, one of the company I just wanted to share that I have been following, Data IKU, Data IQ. They've been doing a great job on the open data, because I mean, they've been able to use those data like smart cities, and then so for those data that they collect, and they use it for good social cause. So I think similar such thing probably should start happening. I mean, I've been visiting, government data site, taking it and then trying to see. But like you just said, right, it is aggregated one, and then the whole bigger thing. I mean, the tip of the iceberg is what we can call it, but the whole bigger iceberg is somewhere behind the scene which we have no insight on. Generally, people want to find that, and then maybe that is the stumbling, or maybe a blocker here, that there is only aggregation that is there, and which can help only help us take some decision probably, right? And that's what the
That is
that's all.
also when I say aggregated data is useful when I doing any projection. Projection
That's
can be
right.
forecasting or say forecasting for next year. What would be the revenue? What is the kind of consumer spending? That is what government is using for this data, and that is a
Mhm.
corporate can also use for their annual planning piece. Also, of course, the data reliability data will be still questionable. However, that yes, there's a plenty of data, especially in the way you said, uh, smart cities piece.
Mhm.
Smart city initiative again means it is again part of the planning part right now. Smart city required a lot of planning at
Definitely.
which location, what are the things are available, what are the kind of need gap, and estimating that piece also that the need gap has to be fulfilled by these kind of resources, amenities. That estimation, what kind of population we can expect from that particular area if we put a smart city. So that kind of requirement estimation and the projection piece can be built on the aggregated data, and that is something people are utilizing for. And I do have my question mark on smart city itself. That okay, which is a smart city till now at least. So that is the action part is still questionable, yes. But the planning piece, yes, it's a feasible part, and planning should be means data IQ. I have not seen personally. Means I am aware of one other company which Gurgaon based again with social work on the social data itself, social purpose itself. And they were working with plenty of NGOs and government part also, especially in healthcare piece. So
Mhm.
that healthcare piece has been like pretty meaningful. That to a specific use case was again, if I have to project what is how many doctors are needed in a particular area in what particular season.
Right.
Healthcare is a very seasonal part and population dependent. So in Uttarakhand, in particular Kumaon region specifically, we are talking about. Then in winters, there's accessibility is limited, and that's where the doctors medical facility may be required. Different type of medical facilities required in winter season versus in summer season where people can travel and the roads are open. So that kind of position they have been helping with, working with the government and working with the different NGOs to make it. So that is something very good, useful, which I find it again pretty neat use of the data.
This healthcare thing that you just brought, I mean, it is really in my mind every time I visit hospitals. I mean, I by nature, I mean, I spot those process deficiencies, the delays, the overall cycle time, how things are happening. I mean, why it cannot have, it could have been done this way, and why not? What I mean, what is the challenges? So I think that's my next interest area, because I'm really very keenly observing that piece. I mean, in here also, I mean, when you go and visit hospital, even for a say corporate health checkup, I mean, I see a lot many things that can be done, but that's not there. I mean, I'm not saying they are not looking at it, but I don't know why they are ignorant about that. Why can't we probably make that whole process with the help of right data, and do some small changes? I mean, I'm not even asking about predictions. I'm not even asking about AL or ML or whatever. What I'm saying is that it's a simple, basic baby step that can be taken by just using the data, and then making some small change and make this process or experience of the consumer very, very meaningful. And but I don't know. But yeah, that's a very interesting piece and very vast piece that we can always discuss in our upcoming or next talk. So before, I know we are at a very good conversation, a lot of insights. I think I would love to summarize that. Before that, I have always had this question in my mind when I'm talking to a startup co-founder. I got to ask this question, and it is really, really required for most of the people who are probably watching and willing to start something. Right? What are the challenges in terms of data related, product when we build, right? And what are the things that you have experienced, different challenges, and couple of quick suggestions or advice to the upcoming maybe entrepreneur or people who are willing to work on data and do something, right? So would you love to talk about that? Well,
Yeah. Thanks, Sanjeev. On that piece, I think from
yeah,
my experience, I'd put it. Uh, this was my second try on the startup sites. Earlier, also I tried one small startup, and we couldn't click. The on the second try again, we could stretch till now at least on data science part. So I would put it again from the startup side. The most critical part is the people, the
right.
team you pull in, the kind of people you are pulling together, and they don't need to be on the same side. If I'm talking about, okay, one person is good in certain things, the other person should not necessarily more similar kind of stuff. The other person should have a different skill set. That is a
Mhm.
balancing part of the team in the startup is very critical. So if one
Right.
is very technical, the other should be the business guy, and other should be a sales guy possibly. That balancing act, people should in the startup team, people should complement each other, not just supplement or overlap each other at all. They should
Mhm.
complement as much possible. That makes a more robust team, and that the kind of interaction or chemistry between those team is also very critical to take it stretch a longer time. If the priorities are different for a person, when there can be different priorities when people have their own personal limitation, personal perspective that okay, finance is more important, family is more important, or they have their own goals of doing something specifically in that particular area or certain way, then that has to be pull it means pull it together. It has to be pulling together. That has to be some overlap. Okay, they all the team has want to go in a certain direction, and all they are committed to the cause part. It becomes in Indian context means what I've seen in many of the startups and the large startups which you see in mature startup. I think on LinkedIn I written long time back, 3 years back, I written an article on also which went viral, and that pain point was again in Indian startups, Indian. I mean, I would say it's part of society also. The Indian personal ego plays a lot of part. It is again, uh, it is very difficult to say to generalize. However, I would put in that again, people who come in the startup space and especially the founders, co-founders again, something which I noticed that co-founders or co-founders ego becomes the biggest bottleneck to the startup's growth.
Mhm.
They harm their own team and they harm their own business without realizing it. And that has been which I keep on hearing from many people also, and which I've seen at least in some of the places which I have interacted with. I know so that is the biggest barrier of maturing of Indian startup founders as a leader, from owning as my personal property to letting go and running a larger initiative where the other people will join in and then drive it. Because I would take a pretty good example if you talk about USPs also. Many of the companies, large companies, be it we hear about those leaders again. When I can take example in Google, Microsoft also. There's a second rung of leaders again. It is not the founders or co-founders who are the core of the company anymore. They have started the initiative, but the rest of the journey has to be run by other people also. So there should be enough space for other people also to grow up and take the initiative, take the lead. It should not be that. I would put in another simple language. I should not treat my startup as my baby anymore, that small kid who needs handholding at each and every step. If I am acting as a father, I initially there may be okay, I have a toddler as a small startup and maybe a small baby. But after
Right.
certain stage it becomes a grown up and have startup has its own means and purpose and goals and have their own way to doing things. I can't impose my thoughts on it anymore. That to letting it go, Indians Indians have very difficult time to let it go. Individuals, I mean, that is something which I see across.
Yeah.
It's letting it go is very difficult part for say startup ecosystem piece, and that
And
becomes entering for the next stage of leaders piece also. And when the large corporate people see when people get hung gung over, they create gangs and then say they are holding on. So 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. Also, there are a few large companies CEOs I can talk about. It is
yeah.
just that simply they don't know how to let it go.
Let it
Means,
go. That's
let it
that's the message. I think I mean, it's very insightful, Varun. I think, and it's very candid. And I would say that we need to probably, have a small, I think, summary of the whole conversation in a form of takeaway, because it is real raw experience. I mean, as I say, right? I mean, there no script, nothing prepared. It's just that we are just talking in terms of how things are happening outside, and how we can learn from each other. And that's the whole objective of the Data Ki Baat in this case. I think I thank you very much for the whole conversation and this insight of one thing that I'm taking away here is that it remains important to really cultivate people. I mean, I've been really talking, and I'm going with a I mean, with a thought that is more concrete now, that if we are able to handle that part, that triangle people part of it, then probably the process and technology would really help us take anything to the very highest level possible, whether it is a startup or a data management program or data governance or data production, whatever. I think that's the whole crux of the matter is in this case. Any parting thought, Varun, before
Thanks,
we?
Rajiv. I think that thanks to you for giving me the opportunity, and happy to contribute to your the Data Ki Baat initiative. I get the context of Man Ki Baat and Data Ki Baat, and wish
I've
you
been really
all the good luck.
to
And
have
hope
you.
your gods, that's again the point you made, gods. I like the reference and the acronym. The gods part does make a lot of sense, and I would wish you all the good luck on the driving that initiative across, and hopefully means the data culture piece of data maturity in terms of data awareness will be higher. You'll be able to drive that piece across the at least the Indian ecosystem on the across of the large corporate startups.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much
thanks,
today.
and have a
Have a
nice
great
day.
day. Thank
Same
you.
to you. Thank you.
Bye.